This week I've chosen to deviate from the text somewhat to talk about one type of human relations in counseling that you encounter many times throughout the school year, and I want to tie that in with Lane and Tripp's 2008 text, Chapter 7 Talk. As you think about your students and your parents, never forget the power your words have with both. You cannot joke around, be sarcastic, or make off-the-cuff remarks. Remember that people look up to you as the authority figure in the classroom, and they trust your every word. They may not act like they respect you as that authority, but they do, and it's easy to forget how important our words are. Even be careful what you say in casual conversations with parents and their students. Your words are also important to God. He gives us a lot of information in the Bible about our tongue and speaking. The first words were spoken by God Himself in Genesis 1, and throughout the Bible, His words, He admonishes us to speak in a way that brings honor and glory to Him. Always focus on the best way to say the words that need to be said. Consider the heart of your parents and students as you speak. When speaking to students or parents, I always try to think of someone speaking to me or my child. The chapters on forgiveness and hope fit in with everything that we do in this course, and especially this chapter. If you've taken EDUC 525, there's an excellent chart there to help guide parent-teacher conferences, and some of what I say may coincide with that chart. Normally, there are 3 types of conferences: the ones you request, the ones your parents request, and the required conferences that are requested by somebody else, such as your administrator. I think this picture really says it all. Whenever you request a conference, your parents feel like they have been called into the principal's office or asked to stay later and talk to their teacher about a problem. In fact, this could be how you feel when your parents call and request a conference. So think about the discomfort that can be going on with your parents. Because of this initial discomfort, you need to do something to set your parents at ease. So the first thing that you can do that will help is to set a time that's convenient for the parent. It may not be during the regular conference time, it may be another time. Tell that parent the purpose of the conference. Robin's want to talk about Robin's grades or change recently in Luke's conduct. I need to give you some ideas and get some ideas from you on how to encourage your student. Or could be that you just want to talk to your parent about the progress that your student is making. Just keep it broad. It could be that you're working with a disability and you need some more help from the parent. Try to have the involved parent be the one who comes to the conference, but be happy with whomever you get. In today's society, some students live in 2-3 different homes, and it would be good if you could talk to all of them, but just talk to whomever you can. Send a reminder to the parent of the day, the time, and the place. This may not be necessary, but a note in the planner the day before is a good reminder, or a phone call from the office to remind them, or a phone call from you. Parents are busy. They may not remember that this conference was scheduled. If the parent's a no-show, if they are a no-show, give them time to respond. One of my no-shows last year was a parent who ended up in the hospital. And I asked the student about her parent, and she was 6th grade, and she just really didn't know. So you never know why they don't show up. So give them the benefit of the doubt. Don't think bad things because they don't come. Some good tips for a conference, they're good for every conference, are always to start positive. You should pray about your conference first. And always listen to everything the parent says. Try to repeat the essence of what you've heard the parents say. Never interrupt. And try not to be thinking about what you will say. We learn about listening in this course. It's hard sometimes to listen because as they start talking, you're thinking about what they said is wrong or what you can say back to them, and you miss things that they've said. It's a good idea to listen with a pen and a pencil in your hand, a pencil and a piece of paper, and take notes on what they're saying, and then try to repeat to them what you've heard them say. Always start off with something good about the child, anything at all that you can say, and in every way you can. Let that parent know you truly care about his or her child. If you expect a hard conference, then ask for a supervisor to be present, and always be prepared. In preparation for your conference, you need to establish a relationship with that parent before you ever have the conference. A parent who only gets bad notes from you about how the student's misbehaving or how they're failing is not happy to come to a conference. It's good if you can send good notes and notes about behavior and grades. I had a student last year that, the mother was just overjoyed if I could say anything good that student had done during that day, and it just made her day. So I tried to find one thing good I could say about that child every day. If you send notes home or warnings home earlier, you've communicated with that parent, then that first communication in a conference is not nearly as scary for either one of you. I'd say communicate with your parents weekly. School probably requires you to do this, maybe through assignments or homework, maybe a test and quiz schedule, important events, maybe you send little notes, maybe your software you have set up for your school allows you to communicate with your parents. If a parent communicates with you, respond as soon as possible. A lot of times parents expect you to call them, like in the middle of your teaching, so it's a good idea to have the office let them know that you cannot talk to them right now. Keep your postings up to date. It's hard to get grading done, but parents should know when you grade and when they can expect to see grades. You'll be able to tell who really wants to know what's going on and only who wants to know about a good day if you have a way of knowing that your parents check in and look also. Do not let little problems become big problems. Handle problems when they're small. If nothing is changing about a particular problem, then call a conference right away before it gets out of hand. And call for conferences to praise progress as well as to work with parents, as well as to work with problems. When you request the conference, it's easier to be prepared for it because you know exactly what the conference is about. So you should always start with prayer. After you pray, then talk about the successes, the good things about the student. If you have student work to share the good work first. Then share the problem, whatever it is, as kindly as possible. Do not allow it to become personal. Talk about what you've done in the classroom to resolve the problem or solve it, and show empathy, respect, and warmth. At this point, it may be a good thing to involve touch, but it depends on if it's male-female or female-female, and then just be very careful that it's only a light touch if you feel you should do that. And then give the parents a prescription for success. Parents come to you because you're the teacher and they want you to solve the problem. So before that conference, you're going to prepare your prescription for success. If the student has a learning disability and needs medication, you cannot tell the parent that. But you need to be prepared to tell the parent what he or she can do to help. So write it down. Write down what you plan to do, what the student needs to do, and what the parent can do. Have several things written down that you plan to do to help their child be successful. Then have several things written down that the student can do to be successful. Then give the parent something that he or she can do to help with the situation. Don't make it look like you're giving the situation to the parent. You're not. You're asking for the parent's help. If there's an issue, and as you're working through the prescription, sometimes you may need to stop and explain. They may not understand what you're planning to do. Stop and ask, does this make sense? Do you know what I'm talking about? If they ask questions, answer all of them. Do not rush. Think about you're at the doctor and there's something wrong with you and you want the doctor to help you figure it out and fix it. And you want him to take time with you. Take the same time with them. Answer all the questions and never rush. You can say you think the child needs glasses or maybe is not hearing, but you aren't the real pediatrician. You're just the doctor for academic success. Okay, let's say things don't go well. Let's say that the parent gets out of hand, ballistic, or he or she won't listen. Then you need to turn to your supervisor for help. You may even need to leave the room. If so, wait a few minutes and come back and pick up where you were. Make sure the parent knows you care about the student and want this child's best. Use empathy, respect, and warmth. Many times parents take this as a black mark against them. If the child is not successful, they feel like they failed as a parent. They need to know this is not true. When I was a school administrator, I had 2 books I frequently loaned out and consequently never got back. One was called How to Really Love Your Child, and the other one was called How to Really Love Your Teenager. Both were written by a Christian child psychologist, Dr. Ross Campbell. Sometimes a book like that will help. If this parent criticizes you, listen and agree where you can. And all of us have areas that we need to work on. But it does no good to defend yourself. It does no good to respond to their criticisms. At some point, you may have to call the supervisor. And if you do, say, excuse me just a minute. If you decide that you have to walk out of the room and you say, excuse me, just give me a minute, walk out of the room, come back. If you need to get the supervisor, you say the same thing, excuse me, I will be right back. If you can call the supervisor from your room, do it. If you need to leave, do it. But it would be good if someone else would get the supervisor for you. And things do not always go well. So you have an angry parent, so you're going to give them time to calm down. I would always talk to the child later and make sure that the child is okay. And I would reschedule the appointment with the supervisor there and follow the same steps. So what if the parent goes to the principal? You should be informed that he or she went to the principal. You may never be able to agree, but you can agree to disagree and you can love the child. The parent may be at the point where they're going to pull the child out of school. There's nothing you can do about that. All you can do is pray and just do your very best. Sometimes ending the conference is really hard. You'd think parents would want to get up and go home, but they don't always. Sometimes you have to say, oh, sorry, my time is up. Can we reschedule to finish this later? Or do you have any other questions? Or is there anything else I can do for you? Or my next appointment is waiting. Is there anything we need to wind up? And then may I close our conference in prayer? That's a good way to always end your conference. If you need help ending your conference, then get it. When a parent asks for a conference, you don't know why they want it. It could be any reason. So ask, when they ask for a conference, if they would tell you the purpose of the conference. And if they ask why, tell them because you need to prepare. And they set the time, and then you follow the same steps for any other conference. If the parents will not tell you the purpose of the conference, then when they first get there and they tell you, take notes, and then just say, I need just a few minutes because this is new to me, and I need to check my facts and make sure I get things right. At that point, you may need a supervisor or you may not, but gather your information and jot down prescriptions for success and follow the same steps. An angry parent is not going to tell you his or her purpose. But while they're talking, jot down anything with which you can agree and try to discern the problem and write it down. When they finish ranting or raving or talking, thank that parent for coming and sharing, and share your agreements, restate what you think the problem is, and state how you think you can help with the solution. If they do not want a solution, they're just venting, don't get angry. Don't show emotion. Use empathy, respect, and warmth, and pray silently. And then ask, may I close in prayer? Before you do that, you may want to say, can we talk about this later when you feel better about it? Or let me know if I can help you with this in the future. You may want to give them an opening to talk about it later. You have a required conference. The principal has called you and said that he or she has set up a conference for you. So talk to the principal and find out the purpose. If it was set up by the principal, ask him or her to attend if it's appropriate. If it was set up by the school secretary, then you just follow normal directions, try to find out from the parent what the conference is about, and if not, then you follow the steps for not knowing. But always start with prayer and always end with prayer.